sports shows, updates, and interviews. The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-hosts as always. We got Evan, we got Logan, we got Daniel, we got Jimmy on the ones and twos, and we got a jam-packed show, a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we do, as always, do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Boys, the Bengals defeated the Cleveland Browns in a much-needed victory, and everybody can woo-saw. Everybody can breathe a little bit. Everybody can, start to feel, I guess, less pressure. But the pressure is still on. Make no mistake about it. You have 4 losses already this early into a season. But you're 1-1 in your division, right? 1-1 is better than 0-2. 3-4 is better than 2-5. And the Bengals playoff hopes are alive, and I just rhymed all that together. So, what a beast! Thank you, I appreciate that. Listen, I'm really curious to hear you guys take away. As you guys know, I recap every single game at the end of every single game. I talk things through, and if you guys didn't hear the announcement, starting this Sunday after every single Bengals game, I'll be going live with Daniel, of course, but also me and Zim will be talking Bengals talk through. Discussing the good, bad, and ugly. I'm sure there will be a lot of things we don't agree on. I'm sure there'll be some things that we do agree on. But one thing's for sure, bring your popcorn. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be exciting. Oh, yeah. I'm really curious to hear, Evan, what your thoughts were on the Bengals versus Browns game. And then we're going to go to Logan. Then we'll go to Daniel. And then I'll carry us home.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the good of it. The defense showed up again. And maybe this is because, it wasn't two of the more explosive passing offenses in the league, right? With Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones in the last couple of weeks. But that aside, especially with how they looked against the Patriots and other games early in the season, Trey Hendrickson, man, nine pressures, 2 sacks, killer. Miles Murphy, Sam Hubbard, even Joseph Osai with some good pass rushes. B.J. Hill, Joe Bacci, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, Von Bell, Sheldon Rankins. Every single one of those players got a pressure. Every single one of them chipped in on those 22 pressures. So again, it's not Trey can absolutely just snap and go off and be blackout Trey that we're used to, but you do need that other help from the other guys. And if you're going to get a collective effort that exceeds what you got from Trey, I think that's a really good recipe for defensive line success. I thought they did a pretty good job overall containing the run. As it came to stopping the running game on the inside, I thought they were filling the gaps well, maintaining their integrity, making sure they were hitting their run fits. Jermaine Pratt's been flying around the last couple of weeks like a shot out of a cannon. So kudos to him for that. 10 tackles last week was the final total for him, 6 defensive stops. So credit to him there. Was nice to see Geno Stone, getting more into the swing of things, not looking quite as lost. Just shout out to all those guys who showed up. Miles Murphy, Chris Jenkins. It's what we talked about, right? When we hoped what fixes the defensive line, it was everybody gets healthy, right? And then you don't have Lawrence Guy and Zach Carter and all these guys taking these snaps who really are generally not on NFL rosters, who are practice squad level players. And it's done wonders for them on the interior. So hopefully they can bring that again this week against the Eagles. Going to have another tough front, good, talented run game to kind of go up against. That's going to be something they need to be wary of. In coverage, I thought they did a pretty decent job overall. Obviously came away with the 2 interceptions, couple pass breakups. There were still some opportunities to be had that I think they kind of got away with a little bit. And maybe Jalen Hurts won't be the quarterback that makes you pay for those, but I think that if you do get some of the more aggressive quarterbacks that are willing to take the chances, that aren't really trying to just be turnover averse, I think they might be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities. So definitely want to see the secondary and the cohesion there kind of continue to improve. And hopefully that does continue with these last 2 games and how they performed. Just quickly on the offense, obviously that's not the performance you want. You can't just be so putrid on 3rd down and converting drives. What they have 1 for 9 on 3rd down? Was that what it was? One of his final. That can't happen. The offense was, everybody shared some blame. I don't want to put it all on one person there. I think Joe Burrow wasn't seeing things very, very quickly, processing things very well. 100% of the time. He did have some incredible throws and some great plays. Absolutely need to say that. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they basically just did what they had to, where this is the strength of the team. Those are the superstars. Those are the guys you rely on when the moments are the biggest. And they came up big on both touchdowns. And T and Jamar were great at moving the sticks, especially T. Good job on them. The running game was just non-existent. I like some of the designs. They definitely look good. We gotta nix whatever that toss play is that they kind of were running. Everything else I think was okay. It looked like there were some instances where maybe people were running wrong routes where you had wide receivers kind of in the same area, the same pattern. And just a couple miscues whether it was the offensive play calling not reacting quickly enough to what was happening in game, because I understand, hey, Browns are a man-heavy team. We came in here with a lot of man beaters ready to go, and you didn't have answers when suddenly they showed zone and when they were playing a lot of zone, which some of the pre-snap reads they were showing, like, hey, yeah, we're playing man, and then they roll out in the zone. And like, there's a degree of confidence you can have in kind of your pre-snap reads there. But at the same time, you have to have those zone beaters built in, and they did not always do that. And when they came out in the second half, they seemed to have adjusted a lot better. Still did not have that consistency, only had those 2 drives resulting in those touchdowns. The offense just definitely has to be willing to abandon their game plan and react to things a little bit quicker. I think that was a problem. And then I think you kind of got, I know it was almost borderline garbage time at the end of the game, but I think you ended up getting too conservative again. I think this coaching staff, I don't think the offensive design was just terrible. I think the rhythm of the play calling, the sequencing, and occasionally the design wasn't great. And whether that was execution wise or whether that was for the players or the coach design, that I can't know that for sure. But I think too often this coaching staff, and Zach Taylor in particular, can sometimes want to protect the win so badly and fear losing so badly that they can just say, hey, I'd rather just run the ball and get the clock going. And if we take 2 to 3 minutes off the clock, then we consider that a win, and if we can keep doing that. Whereas, like, yes, running the ball and getting the clock going is important for trying to run the 4-minute drill, trying to run things out, trying to kill the game at the end when you have the lead, but you do have to convert still. Like, just running 2 minutes off the clock is not enough in the end of the game when it's a 1 or 2 possession game, and things can change very quickly for you. So that would be my biggest complaint. I know things were disjointed on offense. I think there's a lot of blame to go around with different elements of it, and they definitely need to clean things up. We can talk more about that, but I do just, my big concern is that anytime you're up 10, you're up 14, and everything's working for you, but then a fumble happens or an interception happens, I feel like too quickly this team can shrivel up and then say, okay, like, let's just get out of here. Let's be super safe. Let's be super conservative. Let's punt. Let's play defense. And I don't think that's the way that you should be approaching this from a mindset when the offense really is the engine of the team. And as good as the defense has played the last 2 weeks, I don't think that's going to be your bread and butter, especially come playoff time when you are playing the good quarterbacks. So
that's kind of what one of my biggest takeaways from it as well was kind of that last point you made. And I tweeted about it, when the game was happening, just about how, like, you can't just continue to be so conservative. And I know in this specific game, it at the end of the day, it didn't really matter too much. Like, you're going to win. That's what somebody replied to. And they were like, I think they're just not scared of the Browns offense. They know they're just going to win. Like, they're just trying to get out of there. And yes, that's what I just said to him. That makes total sense. That's probably exactly what their thought process was. But to me, that just builds terrible habits, man. It gets you in the habit of, we're getting here. Let's just get the game over with. Let's do all these things that we probably shouldn't be doing. Again, you just cannot build bad habits. And I think that's exactly what they continue to do in these scenarios. Yes, if you're not scared of the Browns scoring, let's get creative. Let's use this as an opportunity to test other ways. Let's see how we can, our quick game, whatever it is, or play action game, whatever it is in these scenarios, you can practice that in real time in a meaningful game right now. There's no need to not take this opportunity to put your best foot forward. That doesn't mean it's for this week. We're going to figure out another way we can put away a football game outside of, what we've been trying to do, because clearly it is not working. Yes, the run game has been, better this year. We're being more efficient, which is what we preached about, which is awesome. But a lot of that doesn't matter when you're up and you just all of a sudden can't run the ball. So that is definitely something that they need to figure out. And I think the offense in general, I don't want to say it was bad, but it looked like the offense are old. You're just relying on your guys to make plays. You're relying on Jamar Chase to win. You're relying on T. Higgins to win. And that's the end of the list nowadays. The last couple of years, maybe Tyler Boyd had something in the tank that we could rely on.
I was going to say, Yoshi got 1 target. So, yeah, they're really leaning into the 12 personnel. I think on the entire first drive of the game, they were in 12 personnel almost the entire time, where, it's Gesicki and it's Eric All and it's Tanner Hudson and Drew Sample and Chase Brown and Zach Moss combining to really supplement that part of the passing game.
Yeah, and with the issue with that too, with the whole passing game thing, is we're kind of talking about a little bit before the show. We're running out all these tight ends, but you kind of give away a little bit what you're going to do when who's on the field. If Gesicki's on the field and these 2 tight end sets, you're probably not really going to run the ball, or if it is, it's probably going to be away from him. If Drew Sample's on the field, you probably might be running right at him. Or if it is a pass, he's probably going to stay in the block. It's just this. I love having all the options. I love having the 12 personnel. It does so many good things, but you have to continue to build off. And I think that's why I don't like that Tanner Hudson sees the field. I don't really like that Tanner Hudson's on the team. But me and Daniel were talking before the show, and I think they keep hoping, because he's kind of the one guy that's like, he can catch a ball okay, he can block okay. He's not great at either, but they kind of feel like maybe they can kind of hide what they're doing a little more with him on the field than others. That's why he played on the 3rd down. That's why he played on the 4th down, because it's not a massive giveaway when he's on the field what they're doing. But again, the offense just got way too reliant. It looked like the offense of the old, where we're just trying to win downfield. We're trying to win one-on-ones, and that seems to always be our game plan against the Browns, and it doesn't really ever work. If the Browns didn't have one of the worst offenses I've ever laid my eyes on this week, you probably lose the game. But Jamar made a great play. T made a great play. Joe made plenty of great plays throughout the game. And the offense scored enough. So they scored more points than the Browns, and that's all that matters. But defensively, I'm a little conflicted still, because, yes, we played good. Just like the Giants, we played good. You're doing a lot of good things. But like we talked about all last week, you're going to make that quarterback beat you on the other team. And they couldn't for 4 quarters. So if you're going to make a quarterback beat you, you better be able to defend the run. You better be selling out to defend the run. And that's what we did all game. And they did it well. And I'm very glad they did it well. The corners, the safeties, yes, they played pretty solid. But still, that offense is so bad. So I'm still interested to see how the defense looks when, they face more of a competent opponent and a competent offense, I'd say. But just like I said against the Giants, continuing that momentum and having a good game under you. Now you got 2 good games defensively under you. No matter what the scenario is, the situation is, those are good things for defense. Defense is a very confidence-driven side of the football. And right now they're playing with a little bit, which is a very, very important thing. And they're going to need a lot of it on Sunday against this Eagles team, man.
Yeah, and I think when I look at this game, I've got a lot of thoughts on the Eagles game, so I'm excited to talk about that. When we look at the Browns game, I think there were a couple main takeaways. First off, I'm with you. I think the sense that, hey, they did play 2 teams whose offenses, respectfully, weren't very good, whether they didn't have the weapons or they just didn't look very good. So I think that this is the perfect spot for the Bengals defense. I think that this upcoming week is the right test, because they have looked very good and they are starting to get healthy. I think one of the guys I'm excited for this upcoming week, who has a big week, is Chris Jenkins. I think Chris Jenkins is a guy that he's got a huge matchup on the interior to where, hey, you're going to be a huge part of this game plan, because that's what the Eagles love to do. They love to attack the middle, especially with their offensive line. And I think this could be a huge week, especially the tush push. So many times the Philadelphia Eagles, that's what they tend to do. And just looking back at the Browns game, I thought they played well. I thought they showed some bright spots. And I'm with you. I think the all-around offense, it just doesn't look like a cohesive unit right now over the past 2 weeks. And it's weird, because they did the previous 4 weeks. But my thought process, honestly, guys, is, and it's, Logan, exactly what you said. I think that the Bengals knew, hey, however this game looks, we just got to go in here and get a win. and this is what we kind of discussed on the post-game show, is, hey, no matter how the offense looked against the Giants, no matter how they looked against the Browns, you pushed your season along 2 more weeks.
Yep.
And I think that that's where the Bengals are. And I hope that they can look at themselves in the mirror and say, hey, this game plan against Eagles is got to be completely different than it was against the Browns. And it's got to be completely different than it was against the Giants. So that's kind of my thoughts on the offense. And the defense, I like what I've seen. I think that they're really going to get tested this week. And I think that it's going to be my main focal point. I think that Miles Murphy has looked a lot better. I think Joseph Asai has looked a lot better. And I think that they look very good, especially in the run game. And I think that's where, kind of the strength is. And the same thing with Sam Hubbard. This is going to be a huge week with the read option you've got with Jalen Hurts. And like I said, I was impressed, and I think they're finally getting healthy. And I look at the cornerback room. Cam Taylor-Britt the past 2 weeks wasn't really tested that much. And that's where I'm going to be looking at, because early on in the season, when you looked against the Chiefs game, you looked at a couple of these other games, Dax Hill was playing on the other side, and Dax Hill was playing very damn good. He was playing great football. Now you don't have Dax Hill on the other side. So I think Cam Taylor-Britt, if I'm looking at somebody who isn't getting talked about enough, I think he's one of the guys this upcoming week to where we're going to hear his name a lot. And I don't feel like Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, I feel like they're going to target him a lot. And I think I'm personally confident in what he has shown. I think he matches up well against a guy like AJ Brown. But that's honestly my biggest, takeaway also is they just weren't tested a lot, the cornerbacks. And when I look at the linebackers, Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson, they're both number 2 and number 3 in tackles in the NFL right now. And it's crazy, but they've both been playing very, very good football. And like you said, Jermaine Pratt's been flying around the field. So all around, I'm very impressed with the defense. I think this upcoming week is going to look a lot different in the sense of what type of matchup you're getting. But all around, I think the defense look very good. And biggest takeaways, you got to freaking win. Like, you got to win. You're 3-4 now. Everything's in front of you. You could be in a lot different situation at 2-5. We'd be having a lot different conversation, but 3-4, you got to be happy. And I'm excited to talk about the Eagles game in a little bit.
Yeah. I see a lot of this isn't directed at one person here on the panel. And part of State of the Jungle is me and the guys, these are my brothers. We're going to agree. We're going to disagree on some stuff. I feel like everything that we talked about here, we're like, yeah, we saw some good stuff from Miles Murphy. Yeah, the deep ball was taken away. Yeah, Cam Taylor-Britt wasn't tested. Can we just maybe they just were doing a lot of good defensively that took a lot of that stuff away? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying you. You were just the last person to go.
Yeah.
So and Evan really didn't even touch on this. So I guess this is me more directing at Logan and Daniel.
Yeah, fuck you, Logan. God.
But I just think at some point we got to just give the defense credit. They showed up.
Yeah.
The reason why Cam Taylor-Britt wasn't tested is because the pass rush, Trey Hendrickson was breathing down his neck the whole game.
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
I think
there were a couple overthrows, and just straight up missed throws by the quarterback. And that's why I said when they play the good ones, it'll be different. But half the quarterbacks in the league aren't going to do that to you. So credit to that. Yeah, that is.
And it's like every week you don't face a Josh Allen. Every week you don't face a Mahomes. You don't face and I'm sorry, I don't feel Jalen Hurts is on that level. That's just me.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Hurts is a fine quarterback. He operates best when the pocket is clean for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you force Jalen Hurts to go through his progressions, he struggles.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he struggles.
It's always been a thing for him.
Yeah. And so for me, I don't really see it as this big daunting task that everybody else does. I'm more worried about what Saquon Barkley could do than what Jalen Hurts could do, respectfully. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
And I think when you marry those two together and you have Saquon Barkley's rushing ability, then you have Jalen Hurts' ability to pull that ball down and run. Yeah. Obviously Devontae Smith, you always got to be worried about him taking the top off your defense. You always got to be worried about, AJ Brown's physical at the catch. But I feel like AJ Brown is really not he's a good receiver, but he's not I don't also view him as one of those game wreckers, if that makes sense. So I think when I look at it, all respect to the Eagles, but they got their own issues in their own right, in my opinion. I'm worried about, and I talked about this on the sit down morning show. I said, hey, can y'all contain Jalen Carter? Can you contain Jordan Davis?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You allow those guys not to wreck your game plan. I think the Bengals should have a lot of success offensively speaking. Defensively speaking, yes, Saquon Barkley is going to be a nightmare. Dallas Goedert, nightmare. You know what I mean? These are people that that I'm rating more highly than I guess what we're talking about, because I always feel like the receiving core, Lou always does a good job of sort of trying to take away your best weapon to a degree, and not letting the best weapon be an absolute game wrecker. And I look at it and I say, man, yeah, like no doubt, like they were able to, you know, slow down the running game of the Browns. We know that's what the Browns like to do. But I also think this is what happens when the offense can put points on the board early. Right. Even though it wasn't a lot of points, they put points on the board early, and you allow the defense to pin their ears back. Logan's a coach. Evan is a football nerd. Daniel's a football nerd. I'm a football nerd. Jimmy's a football nerd. We all know this when it comes to football. You have to earn the right to rush the passer. You have to do those things. And guess what? If your defense is and they know their football team is playing with a lead, guess what? Everybody's starting to play with more confidence. Everybody's starting to take more chances. People are jumping routes. That being said, something that I want to talk about, because I feel like we spend a lot of time, not just on this show, but just on this channel in general. Sometimes we talk a lot about the negatives. I want to just shout out Geno Stone. This was one of the best football games I've seen him play, you know, since he became a Bengal. We saw the Giants game last week, and I was like, all right, maybe it was a little fluke. It was against Daniel Jones, you know, and the Giants. He did it again this week. Obviously, Will's out with an injury on one of the last few plays defensively. Yeah. Luckily, doesn't seem like it's going to be he going to be out too long. He might play Sunday. We don't know yet. That being said, like for me, I think that this defense is starting to come together. And I just want to highlight the defense because I don't want to sweep these performances under the rug, because it could have been easy. I remember in 2018 when the Bengals, or 2019, when the Bengals defense was so putrid, it didn't matter who you had out there. You had no names having record-setting games against the Bengals. You had people showing out and having great games. Listen, we saw Ramondre Stevenson and the Patriots go dumb on us, right? You know, week one. Like we saw it. We saw it happen with our own eyes. Again, a lot of people have spent a lot of time calling for Lou's job. Let's highlight the good performances. I don't give a damn what it looks like. It's hard to win in the National Football League. It's even harder to hold a team down defensively and not allow them to put up 17, 20 points on you. So kudos to this Bengals defense. Kudos for showing up and showing out. I don't care what it looked like. It happened. It happened. They made it happen. And I'm crediting the defensive line. I'm crediting the return of Sheldon Rankins, BJ Hill, and all these guys back to the fold for this defensive line getting right. So again, no shot to any of my co-hosts and like that, but I just want to make sure that I give a moment to give full praise to this defense, because it's hard to, I don't care what the team look like. And I don't know about y'all, I hold Kevin Stefanski in that high regard personally. I think Kevin Stefanski is one of the better offensive coaches of football, and I think it's a shame he might lose his job behind, you know, ownership wanting Deshaun Watson, who seemed to has lost all his confidence. But even a bigger shout out to Lou's defense, because I can remember where there'll be times where, you know, the starting quarterback go out, and that moment will be a moment where we get confident, and that same dude that we think the Bengals defense is going to continue to roll against just start to struggle. If you don't believe me, go look at what happened when they faced Chicago Bears when Andy Dalton was a quarterback, and then Justin Fields came in, and Mike White. So like, yeah, I'm rating these victories like, yeah, they did that, and this is a team in their division that know where to struggle at, and they still took it away. Another person I want to highlight, because guess what? We spend a lot of time on this show shitting on him. When I say me, Evan, we spend a lot of time shitting on this dude. I don't rate Cody Ford too highly. And I think that the offense.
I'm not willing to go there.
I'm just crediting him, because I'm be honest with you, I was scared shitless when Orlando Brown went out the game.
He was in the way. Sure,
he was in the way, 100%. I'm not saying he had a elite performance, but he did his job.
I'm not even saying he had a good one.
He did enough. The Bengals won. They didn't allow Myles Garrett to disrupt the game, which could have very easily happened.
I mean, that was a very smart idea of them to basically triple team him on a couple instances. Like I do want to give credit, because look, you got Myles Garrett to one pressure. That's fucking really hard to do. The guy's incredible. And to his credit, he is playing through a little bit of injury right now, but he's still one of the best 2 or 3 edge defenders in the NFL, even injured. But yeah, the bar is so fucking low that I do want to point out that, like, yeah, a lot of that was quick game. A lot of that is not giving yourself instances where you were exposing Joe Burrow when you have a lead behind a backup tackle to 5 and 7 step drops. And maybe that was part of what fueled their conservative nature, is saying, hey, this is a pretty talented defensive line who has managed to get pressure today. let's not force the issue. Let's not do any type of drop backs. We feel like the quick game is not going to be advantageous to us, and they're playing man and they're sitting on everything. And Denzel Ward had a really, really good game, and JOK was playing out of his mind. Like maybe that's where the conservatism came from.
And maybe I went a little too far. You know,
I don't know. If he can just be in the way and just be functional, he ain't got to be perfect, but like, this is the part that sucks about losing Trent Brown, right? Because even though Trent Brown didn't look his best at the start of the season, the idea was always that you could have these guys come in if something was to go wrong, and then you have Amarius Mims and Trent Brown as your swing guys wherever they got to go. It definitely sucks that they have to resort to this, but hopefully he plays well.
I also want to just make sure we get out of the habit, not us on the show, just like the fan base as whole. If a guy has a rough game, let's not just call for the person's job, right? Like it's like think about
wait till they have two. Come on,
wait two. I mean, you have to
wait more than one.
Yeah, they like that. Have you gotta listen. Wait till they have some abysmal performances before we just say this guy should be good, let go, or this guy should be like. Think about it this way: no matter what your profession is, what your job is, right? We all don't have our best days.
Happens.
Look, I'm literally alive every single day, right? Every single day outside of Saturday, I'm live. There are some days where Jimmy could tell you, Dan could tell you, where I'm not at my best, right? And I hold myself to a very, very high standard. That don't mean I suck at my job. That don't mean I'm terrible at what I do. That was just a rough day. It could be whatever going on. So, like, again, give Alex Kappa, give Cordell Volson, give those guys a little bit of grace, you know? It's hard to be a guard in the National Football League, especially with an offense that ran the ball 6 times or 8 times, whatever it was in the first half, that wanted to drop back and shotgun consistently against a very underrated Browns defense. So I just will say, let's just give them a little grace. You know, you're not dealing with the smartest apples in a bunch when it comes to offensive play calling. You're not. So, you know, I think that sometimes guys could look a whole lot worse for wear than what they actually are sometimes because of the offense not meshing as well as we wanted them to. But I also want to I rate this Bengals win a lot higher than other people do. And the reason why is because the AFC North is so tough. AFC North is so tough, man. And it's tough to win in this division. Like, I don't care what it looked like. I don't expect us to go out there and blow out any team in our division. I don't. I just think that these teams are like, listen, these teams are built to beat you. They're built to take away what you do best. They study you. They play you twice a year. So just my thoughts. Dan, I know there was some stuff you like you wanted to add over there as I was talking.
Well, it's just about the Eagles game. I mean, I don't know if you want to discuss.
We can jump into the overall game when it comes to when it comes to the Eagles game. We could definitely talk about that and start previewing a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that when I look at that, and I thought you brought up great points. I think that's what my overall thought on this game is. These guys are going to be tested, and I think they can rise to the occasion, right? When I look at A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I'm looking at an offense, in my opinion, there are 2 ways that this game really goes haywire. Number one, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith dominate in the 50-50 ball, or you just let Saquon run 25 times. I believe if you can hold them to a position where they are not running 25 times, you're going to be fine. But if they're in a position where they're running time and time again, Saquon's going to break one. So I think all around, when you look at, like I said, the previous matchup so far for A.J. Brown and Devontae against Cleveland Browns, A.J. and Devontae still got their own, but how the Browns beat them literally is beating them one-on-one. Denzel Ward had, I believe, he had a 50-50 ball, got an interception over Devontae Smith. That's got to be Cam Taylor-Britt. So I think that's where this game really comes down to is, and you discussed, Malik, about Jalen Hurts. I'm with you. I think that Jalen Hurts, his biggest issues is he does just let his receivers and his tight ends, he throws it up. And that's the 2 biggest concerns of this defense is literally going to be, hey, how do these guys play with the ball in the air? And number 2 is literally, I think, stopping the Jalen Hurts rushing attack. And I think that Jalen Hurts' rushing ability is what can really break this game open, whether it's, obviously the tush push is going to be a big thing, 3rd and short, 4th and short, but it really is the read option. It really is getting Jalen Hurts out in space. But all around, when you look at how teams have beat the Philadelphia Eagles, look at how I think the Cleveland Browns played a masterful game against the Philadelphia Eagles. They sent the house on him on 3rd down multiple times. And what does Jalen Hurts do? He's got guys one-on-one, but he gets flustered multiple times. They sacked him. And I think that's what Lou has got to do. And I think that's what Lou is going to do. So all around, I think that That's my biggest difference, I think, in these two games and the two matchups is, hey,
Mhm.
that's what's going to be the X factor. I don't believe it's going to be, hey, like Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. I think that they're going to be fine. I think they're going to have their role, but it really is going to come down to the cornerbacks, in my opinion. I think that's where the game can shift. I think if those guys come out and make a big time play, and there's going to be opportunities for it. So I think that that's honestly the one thing I've seriously circled. That's what I'm excited for. I think Cam, I think even Mike Hilton's going to have his chances, coming on blitzes. But I really think there's going to be at least 5 opportunities for these Bengal cornerbacks to come out and make a big play. And I'm confident they do so. I think Cam Taylor is one of the best 50-50 ball guys. And that's the way I do see the Bengals. If they were to lose, if their defense were to be bad, it's seriously those guys, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, just making a bigger play. But I'm with you. I don't think that this Eagles offense completely overmatches this Bengals team. I think that this Eagles offense has, flaws of its own. And I really think they are a team where if you put them behind the 8 ball, if you force Jalen Hurts into shitty situations right away, you could be playing, yourself in a very, very good game, and especially a game at home. So
I think it's important to also talk about their offensive line isn't as good as it used to be. At one point in time, obviously, you lose, he used to be so damn good. You lose a Jason Kels, it starts to look
Jordan
a little bit
Mailata
different.
too.
Yeah, Jordan
Yeah,
Mailata
now you got
sure.
Fred Johnson. Yeah, that Fred Johnson.
Yeah,
starting.
Yeah,
against Trey.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting for sure. One thing is about Fred Johnson is he's a big man. He's a big man.
He had some good clips from last week, man.
Yeah.
He did. He really did.
Listen, I always believed in Fred
He
Johnson's
did.
potential a little more than most people here in Cincinnati. I thought that they consistently put him in the wrong spot, playing him at guard. And when he got the opportunity to play at tackle, he performed. And now he's in a spot where I'm not saying he's elite. I'm not saying he's even good. I'm just saying that I think that he's showing a lot of promise for the Eagles. That being said, I favor Trey Hendrickson in that matchup for obvious reasons. But we got to talk more about Jalen Carter, man. We got to talk more about Jalen Carter, because if you allow that guy to wreck your offensive game plan, and he can wreck your offensive game plan, man. The thing about Jalen Carter is, I don't know if y'all peeped this. He starts off the game really strong. And then when he enters in the fourth quarter, he starts to kind of just dwindle down. And that was one of the issues people had with him, was conditioning. And I'm not trying to say that he's a terrible football player. I'm just saying, like, it was a conditioning thing. And, I was talking to a buddy of mine who works with the Eagles, and he said, I was a concern for people inside the building too, because, when you look at it, he played at Georgia. They weren't used to, like, playing. These guys weren't used to playing into the fourth quarter.
2 quarters.
He was playing 2 quarters. Those guys are done, right? So, what a damn good spot to be in if you think about it. So when I look at it, man, I'm saying to myself, man, like, all right, he's on the Eagles now. He looks better than how he did, obviously, last season. But I start to still see the same thing where his name's getting called in the beginning of the game, and then you get in the fourth quarter, it kind of get a little quiet. I wonder, is he gonna be able to keep up the same pressure, or is he gonna be a game breaker all the way through? One thing I got to give the Eagles credit for is they built a hell of a defense over there. They built they got a lot of names like Cooper DeJean, right? You got Quinyon Mitchell. You got so many different pieces on this defensive team that I feel like they're going to try to. I feel like they match up well offensively with us personally, defensively with us offensively. I really believe that. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for them, and I think that this game is really going to come down to the trenches. Like most games come down to the trenches, but this game is going to really come down to the trenches because they're talented every which way you look.
They really are. And I'm going to combine what you and Daniel just talked about too. You talked about Jalen Carter. He's been phenomenal. But you also talked about Alex Kappa and Cordell Volson, and giving them a little bit of time before we really harp on them. They better get fucking ready to go, man. That this Eagles interior defensive line, Milton Williams, and some of these other guys have just been pressure machines this year on the interior for the Eagles. I mean, they got so many ways to beat you. If you're going to continue to be crazy inside, we might throw Nolan Smith out there off the edge and just hope he runs right by you. They do so many things well just to generate pressures, and they got so many athletes they can just rotate in and out to where if Jalen Carter does go ghost in the fourth quarter, we still have other options to throw in there at you. The interior of this offensive line better be ready to pass block.
You know what they do really? That kind of goes under the radar a little bit before we get to Evan and we get to Daniel. We get to Daniel first, and we get to Evan actually. They do something really interesting. And it's not really even like something you look at stats wise or something like that. But if you watching the Eagles play defensively, they always get a hit on the quarterback after. They make you feel them every single time. They're a physical ass team.
Yeah.
And like, you drop back, Joe Burrow throw that ball. Joe Burrow, this is gonna be a game where Joe Burrow gonna eat dirt a couple times, man. He gonna look, you're gonna have to be all right with picking him up off the not the canvas, but the field a couple of times, because they're gonna make sure they even if they get a little slight, really close to him, they'll just shoulder check him. Not enough to get flagged, but just to make them feel it, right? And I just think that this Eagles team is very physical. They want to announce themselves pretty early in this game.
Yeah. And then the other point I want to talk about with Daniel's point about the corners is the one thing that really worries me. And I agree with your take about AJ Brown earlier, but I think AJ Brown worries me a lot more in this game. And I'm gonna, I guess, maybe lighten that up a little bit, just because what I'm about to say was Cam Taylor-Britt's worst game he'll probably ever play in his life. But against the Carolina Panthers, I mean, we watched Xavier legit just grown man him time and time and time again. Just I'm just going to be stronger than you. I'm going to be more physical than you. And I'm just going to get open because of it. And if you think Xavier legit's a big, strong dude, AJ Brown's a pretty damn big, strong dude as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, that was Cam Taylor-Britt's absolutely worst game he'll probably ever play for the rest of his life. But if that they're going to try to attack him early and use AJ Brown's, physicality like the Panthers did with their rookie receiver. So he needs to be ready to roll.
Man, Dane, what are your thoughts though?
Yeah,
in this game?
no, for sure, and I definitely think that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, you got some dudes on that side, and I think that you go look at how they win. They win. It is the grimy. It is. Look at what the first game of the year against Jair Alexander. It was, hey, Jair, more technical cornerback. Much more technical than AJ. AJ just straight up grown man multiple times. And I think that's what it's going to be. And I think these dudes, they're going to have chances. We're talking DJ Turner. They are going to have their chances in this game, 50-50 balls, post routes. They run a lot of times a very simple route tree when it comes to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And it works sometimes. So I think that's, my biggest fear on the offense side of the ball, or defense for the Bengals. And then when I look at the offense, I think, Malik, you brought up a great point.
Wait, Saquon don't make you fearful?
To be honest, I think that he's good. I think that he's just really a volume runner. It's very similar to Derrick Henry. I think if you give him 20 touches, he is going to break one off. Saquon's good, but many times, and I've been saying this, maybe I'm buying into what I've been seeing. I own fantasy or Saquon in fantasy, and I've just seen multiple times, hey, he gets shut out for an entire first half, but they tend to pound the rock with him. You look at every single game, I believe over 15 rushes every single game. He's a very good running back, and he's broken a lot of tackles. And you go look at what he just did against his former team, the Giants. He absolutely destroyed them. But I feel like, in my opinion, the way to go about this game is to load the box and is to force, your cornerbacks to be in one-on-one situation, because I'd rather go about it that way versus the only way that Saquon does scare me is if you rush 4 and if you don't have many men in the box and if you are playing a deep zone. But I don't know if that's the right way to go about this, to be honest. And I could be wrong, but I think you take Saquon out of the equation, very similar to what you've done the past 2 weeks. Go look at against the Browns. That's, I believe, the best case for this game. So Saquon, I think he's very good, but I feel like if I'm game planning for Saquon. Take him out, make sure that, hey, he's not breaking any big runs. At least we've got containment. And I'm going to really go to my cornerbacks. I'm going to say, hey, you guys are going to have your chances this year or this week. And so, like I said, 50-50 ball, Cam Taylor-Britt, you've got to trust that.
So I want to touch on that just a little more, though.
Yeah.
You talked about how he's very similar to Derrick Henry in regards to volume. The Bengals contained Derrick Henry for majority of the game. Ask me how many yards he finished with rushing, though. About 92. And that's because one big run.
Yes.
Right.
What's the game?
And everybody's calling card. And I'm not going at you right now. We're just I want to make sure I want to give them credit as well too. It's like I think everybody knows this Bengals run defense has been the issue. Like we do know, like first of all, the Bengals defense is rated better than even what I thought it was personally. But what was dragging them down is their run defense, not their passing defense. And I think the worst kept secret in the NFL is, hey, Bengals got 2 guys in the interior who their strengths are not stopping the run. They don't have DJ Reader anymore. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to run the ball at the Bengals consistently. We're going to try to have success, whether that's a right, wrong way to look at it. You went out there and you paid for Saquon Barkley, who's an elite talent at the running back position. 100%, I'm gonna try to exploit that. 100%, I'm gonna try to make them uncomfortable. 100%, I'm gonna trust Saquon Barkley, going up against BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins. That's the way I would look at it if I'm the Eagles, because you got to ask yourself, if you're the Bengals, would you rather Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, right? Would you want those weapons to beat you deep, or would you rather Saquon Barkley? Well, I think the Bengals are gonna look at it like, damn, this is the one team that when you look across, right? Well, we got Jamar Chase, we got T. Higgins. Okay, well, we got Devontae Smith and we got AJ Brown. What up? Like, that's the way they're probably looking at it. They trust their receiving core, just like the Bengals trust their receiving core. It's gonna figure out. And just when the Bengals think that, all right, all you got is that receiving core, all you got is that jab, if you're a boxer, all right, we're gonna take that away from you. All right, don't forget about the hook. Don't forget about Saquon Barkley. We can hand the ball to him 20 times. You might stop him the first 3-4 times, right? But what happens later in the third quarter? What happens even in the second quarter? What happens? Are those guys gonna get worn down? Y'all keep talking about the strength of your defensive line, and your defensive line is back healthy and all stuff like that. We're gonna put that to the test. That's the way. If I'm the Eagles, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
It like, to me, that's the spot that make me uncomfortable. Because here's the thing about Saquon Barkley, it ain't just the run game. It's not just the run game. As soon as you think you got to answer that, slip about the backfield. We're gonna just throw it to him in a flat. Can Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson make a play? Let's figure it out.
I hope so.
I don't know.
I'll push back on that a little bit, because I thought the same thing.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing about what we knew Saquon Barkley to be coming out, right? Supposed to be comparatively as talented a receiving back as Christian McCaffrey, right? And we just have not seen that this year right now. He's 22nd out of 28 running backs in yards per route run. He's averaging just over 2 catches for 17 yards a game this season.
That's something the Eagles do.
It's just not part of their offense and how they operate, and they just have not used him that way. So I don't see him burning the Bengals in the sense of the Austin Eckler types, right? The Justice Hill types, the guys who are getting these screens, these little gadget plays, these little short throws, the angle routes, and kind of making you pay for those. I got a lot to say about this matchup. A lot of really cool numbers here looking at it. But first, we have 98 people watching on YouTube, only 23 likes. Please, guys, continue to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Helps us continue to bring great content like this to you. Let's go ahead and dive into the numbers, because Jalen Hurts is absolutely where this is going to start, right? And you talked about earlier, Malik, how you see Jalen Hurts in more of the bucket of Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson, in the sense of these are not guys who are known for being precise.
I didn't put him in the same bucket as Daniel Jones.
You didn't put him in the same bucket.
I didn't put him in the
Josh
same
Allen.
with the elite quarterbacks. Yeah.
I'm just saying, when we talked earlier, you said, yeah, I think he's closer to Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson in the last 2 weeks than he is.
No. I never said that. But continue.
Run the tape back. Anyways,
I never said that, but continue.
I'm not saying that you said they're the same level of quarterback. I'm saying from the sense of, like, these are not dialed up pocket passers. These are not guys who beat you with accuracy.
I'll make this clear.
Okay.
I don't view Jalen Hurts as one of the top 3, top 4, top 5 elite quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think that's perfectly fair to say. You can make your argument without trying to say I'm comparing him to Daniel Jones or any of those other guys the Bengals have recently faced. But continue.
That's all right, man. All right.
That's fine. You don't need to try to disparage my argument.
I'm not
trying to make a statement.
I was agreeing with your point. I was agreeing with the point overall, man. Woo. All right. Jalen Hurts, man. Alabama fans right here, we'd be the first to tell you we love Jalen. Did a lot for us. Super great guy. Wish him all the best. It's fair to say he's not the pocket passer. He's not a quarterback who is athletic. He is an athlete who plays quarterback. And what I mean is the touch throws are not consistent. The pocket presence and the pocket feel are not there in a way they have been in the last couple of years. And part of that is the cleaner pockets, right? Everybody knows it's been beaten to death. The storyline of Jason Kelce setting protections, right? That's now on Jalen. They've got injuries to the offensive line. They've got a little bit of attrition from age there. You have nowhere near the safeguards you did before. And now he has to assume a lot more responsibility for the offense. And it's showing. He has the second highest pressure to sack rate of his entire career. And right now, he's first in completion over expectation right now, which means a lot of these passes that are not expected to be completed like AJ Brown who's caught 5 out of 6 contested catch attempt opportunities. These are passes that are not high completion expectation, but have worked out for him. And while that's really good, just in the immediate, when you're looking at can this be sustained, it's like going 11 for 12 on third down. You're happy you did it that game, but you know you're not going 11 for 12 on third down again the next week, right? It's much the same of that, where you are completing a very high difficulty level of throws, and eventually the bottom's going to fall out there, right? And when you look at some of these other numbers too, their offense is more of the middle of the pack, especially when it comes to passing. 15th in EPA per play, 22nd in PFF grade, 25th out of 28 quarterbacks in passing grade. He has 6 big-time throws this season to 11 turnover-worthy plays, but only 4 interceptions. So he's had a lot of turnover luck there as well. He's first among quarterbacks in turnover-worthy play percentage this season. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities there, as well as him having a higher career pressure to sack number than he has when he's been scrambling away from all these pressures and extending plays. You haven't had as much of that. You haven't had as much of him doing when you make him read the field, he's not processing things very quickly or very well consistently. And so again, you're operating in the same way that the Bengals do a lot, where you are relying so much on, if the run game's not working, if we have to drop back and pass, if Saquon Barkley does have one of those second down runs that instead of 2nd and 6, you end up at 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, because the blocking isn't there, he's trying to extend that, and suddenly now you're at 3rd down and you're 3rd and 7 plus, and you have to actually drop back and throw. They're winning a lot more off of talent with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith doing their thing. The other thing I would say too, when you're playing defense against Jalen Hurts right now, I think Daniel made a great point that you're not trying to drop deep guys into zone. You're trying to load the box one to slow down Saquon Barkley. They did a good job of that against Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry for almost all the game. That needs to be your methodology. And you also need to be playing, I think, 2 high safeties, middle of field open. And the reason I say that is because so much of what the Eagles do has come in that short passing game, 0 to 10, or deep outside the numbers. That's where they've taken their shots, is when they try and isolate things with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and take their deep shots. Over the middle of the field, 3 of Jalen Hurts' 4 interceptions have come between the numbers past 10 plus yards. So I'm trying to cloud things up underneath while also stacking the box and forcing Jalen Hurts to read out the deep parts of the field, take these shots, and having that too high gives you that over the top safety help a little bit when you're trying to leave your corners that are in isolated coverage. You don't want Cam Taylor-Britt or DJ Turner trying to cover AJ Brown for the entire fucking game, dude. And especially if you run man, AJ Brown is number 1 in PFF receiving grade against man. He's 7 for 10. 7 catches on 10 targets for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averages 24 yards per reception against man coverage. You are going to get torched by him. The guy is too fast, too big, too strong. He will find a way to win the leverage battle, and Jalen Hurts will throw it in there to him. So I think playing that kind of too high role, not isolating your corners, loading the box. If they're going to beat you on a couple deep shots, like fine, but they're not going to subsist off of that explosive passing offense. That's not what they've been. They've gone from pre-bye being upwards of 50% early down pass rate to post-bye in the last 2 weeks being somewhere near 30. So they are relying so much more on this run game, trying to just let Jalen Hurts, hey, reel it in. Be more conservative as a passer, like Daniel Jones. Again, saying not that skill level as quarterbacks, they are similar, but in the sense of, hey, if you can just execute the offense, be a threat as a runner, and then complete passes and not put the ball in harm's way, we're going to win a lot of games. That's how they're playing Jalen Hurts right now. He is not playing anywhere near the 2022 version of Jalen Hurts. So that's how you stop their offense. And I think on the line, on the trenches that you guys talked about, it's going to be a war of attrition against, hey, we've got backup offensive linemen at both left tackle spots for both teams now against talented edge rushers. It's who's going to come in with the game plan to beat that, to manage against that. And the Eagles on defense have been very versatile. They ran a lot of man their first couple weeks, and then post-bye, they've done a lot more of the cover 4 Wade Phillips traditional stuff. That means they leave their corners on an island a lot, which means you're going to have a lot of single coverage against Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. So I would not be surprised to see them take a lot of shots at the boundary and just pepper T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on these back shoulder balls, these out routes over and over and over again. I think that's going to be somewhere you get them. But much like the Browns did, where they ran so much man the first couple weeks of the season and then switched and ran a lot of zone when the Bengals planned against man. I think you need to be ready to pivot because this is a defense who absolutely can survive running both with some talented corners, some talented safeties, and a D line that can wreak havoc and stop the deep stuff where you can really burn those guys when they do isolate. I think you're going to have that plan for if they play zone, we're going to have these sets of plays. If they do go man, we're going to lean more towards these. And you definitely need to be prepared to make that shift sooner than you did against the Cleveland Browns.
I respect that. A lot of people in the comment section are saying Ebenezer belongs in the Bengals front office. And they said if Evan was in the Bengals front office, he'd make a lot of wholesale changes. Let me be clear with y'all, and I appreciate y'all. Like we're going to disagree on the show. My bad, Evan. If I thought you were saying
not skill level wise or anything like that. Just like hey, we're gonna play like within ourselves. We're not gonna put the game on your shoulders like a Josh Allen, like a Pat Mahomes, like even a Lamar Jackson, because I think he gets underrated as a passer sometimes. I think, to be fair to him. And so I don't think he's that level of quarterback.
I think the angle I was coming at, and I think you're going off of how the Eagles have used Saquon Barkley so far. I'm going off of how the Bengals typically are people's get right games, or their teams teams are able to have success in areas.
I'm hoping Dallas Goedert ain't playing this week because that tight end's going to kill you up the seam.
Teams are able to have more success against the Bengals in areas that aren't necessarily their strength. So what I mean by that is, like, I look at a guy like Tyrone Tracy. The Giants did not utilize him in the pass game as much as they did, but he went up against the Bengals. This guy had 6 catches for 57 yards.
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco had 5 catches against the Bengals. Sanders, the other dude, had 3. I think Chuba Hubbard had 4 against the Bengals.
It keeps happening.
And Saquon Barkley, it's funny, his first 2 weeks with Philly, he had 4 catches. He had 4 catches in the passing game. I think 4 or 3 or maybe 4 each. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's an area that I could see them having. I could see Saquon Barkley having success. He's more explosive than all those runners that I just named, right? I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, all right, if those guys are able to have success against the Bengals in the passing game, what is a guy like Saquon Barkley going to be able to do?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, all right, they may not have utilized him like that, but it's clear the Bengals don't have an answer for that, or it's clear that teams see that as an area of weakness for the Bengals. And I'm not saying that it is, but I just know I would trust. Maybe I'm giving them the nuggets to beat.
It's like the offensive lineman touchdown, right? Well, we saw it in like 2 weeks, and then you saw it the third week when the Ravens did it with Isaiah Likely instead of a lineman. Like teams look at that.
Right.
Teams absolutely do.
Right, and that's a fear of mine. That's a fear of mine this week. All right,
that makes sense.
Can y'all limit the running backs' pass catching ability? Because look, maybe not everybody. I'm terrified as hell with Saquon Barkley with the ball in his hands. And Jermaine Pratt having to make a tackle,
especially with how bad we've tackled this year, man.
Yes. So like that's just a focus for me where I feel like Jalen Hurts is going to feel the pressure. There's a method to my madness. Evan belongs in the front office. Keep me away from a goddamn front office. But what I will say is, listen to the method to my madness. Trey Hendrickson versus Fred Johnson. Trey's gonna have a lot of success. Jalen Hurts not gonna have a lot of time, or as much time as he wants to step up in the pocket, go through his progressions, and make his read. All right. Well, who's going to be the beneficiary of that? Might be the running back. Might be the running back. And how do we do well against that? How do we game plan against that? How do we stop that from happening? Or maybe you can't stop it from happening, but maybe you can slow it down. It's gonna come down to being assignment sound. It's going to come down to being assignment sound, but Daniel, continue. You're about to go off on that.
I think that, and that's where I guess I'm just going to kind of pose this question, right? If you guys were, and obviously we are not on the coaching staff, if you guys were planning for this defense, what are you planning for? And I think the thing is, like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I went back, looked at the Browns game. It really is the 50-50 balls. Are you guys okay with leaving Cam, leaving DJ Turner one-on-one? Because that's what's happened many times, even late in the game. And look at how the Philadelphia Eagles won against the Browns. It literally was AJ, Denzel, one-on-one. He lobbed it up. AJ Brown caught it. So what do you think is the key? And what's the lesser of two evils? For me, I'm with you. I think I am loading the box for Saquon. I am bringing the house. I am flustering Jalen Hurts. And I think you're going to have to live with the 50-50 balls at some point. Am I wrong in saying that? Or what do you guys think? Or would you guys do the opposite of, hey, maybe double an A.J. Brown, maybe shade some coverage and leave some of the rushing lanes open? For me, that's where the conversation really is. And
no, I'm kind of there with you. I think, it's just I think it's just unfortunately a little harder to do. It's easier, it's harder to do that than just saying it. I think, if I'm trying to approach it, I think, you're trying to do what the Vikings are doing right now. We're going to show you a lot of one thing pre-snap. It's going to look completely different post-snap, whether, that we're blitzing a lot, whether we're dropping into the coverage or just changing the coverage. I think that's a good way to kind of get, Jalen Hurts flustered, and maybe without having to apply pressure or blitz or do these things, is just make him think a little bit more and just change the picture completely post-snap. Maybe showing 6-7 on the line will get them to check out of that run. Now we're dropping. So maybe that's something that you can do to kind of try to balance both of them. I think that's how kind of I would try to attack it, is just show a bunch of things, just drop it here, drop it there. But at the end of the day, yes, I'd much rather load the box and just try to contain Saquon Barkley than anything. But I hope Lou's done a good job of being creative in those fronts his whole career with us. So I'm just interested to see how he does approach. I do think he'll be a Saquon Barkley focused approach. But again, the more you can look like it's not that, the more success you'll probably have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be a lot of showing, hey, we're overloading this side. Hey, we're blitzing this side. Hey, we're doing a simulated pressure here, because again, you want to make Jalen uncomfortable and make him set the protections, make him have to make adjustments, make these guys have to communicate, hey, we're going to do half slide, full slide this way, and we're going to try and pick guys up. And he did a good job, I think Lou did, of last game doing that, to then drop guys out in coverage to, one, change the picture on the quarterback post snap, but two, you end up with offensive linemen either blocking one-on-one against guys they've been trying to double team, or two, not blocking anybody. Yeah. And so that's an advantage of when you do things like that, when you drop Sam Hubbard into coverage, even though it kind of makes people uncomfortable, including myself. But that is an advantage of it. And I think that's something they definitely want to do, because if you can make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable, not trust his eyes, have to have that responsibility of setting protections, which is something that he's struggled a little bit with, I think, to be fair. And I look at, what happened in the losses to the Bucs and the Falcons. Well, Jalen Hurts had under 200 passing yards in both of those games. Like me, he's had 3 games where he's had under 200 passing yards. Like, it's going to be hard to win in today's modern NFL. Your running back's going to have to go for 150, 200 total yards if you're going to win a game against a halfway decent offense in this modern NFL right now. If your quarterback's throwing for 150, 170 yards, like, it's just, look at Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler and everyone else as they struggle to even try and put together an offense with that. They have won a lot. If you look, they've been a lot better on the explosive plays than the down-to-down consistency. And part of that is the nature of their passing game, right? Being averaged at the target is deep down the field. You're doing a lot of the jump balls to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Your running back game with Saquon Barkley he has a really high breakaway percentage. I believe he's top 5 in both runs of 10-plus yards and 15-plus yards. But at the same time, you do also get the higher percentage of negative runs, or runs for loss as well. And that puts you in those obvious passing downs. So I think you really nailed it, man, where you try and force them to pass the ball, but then the picture changes to where, oh no, blitz is coming, we got to pass, or we're running into a loaded box, or we're running this right into the blitz. And then suddenly the picture changes, and now you're dropping people out, and now you're throwing the ball against that. And Jalen is not trusting himself and is now holding the ball for an extra half second. And now Trey Hendrickson's there, or BJ Hill is there, because the interior of that line, as good as they have been as run blockers, Malik nailed it earlier, that's not the Philly line from 2 years ago and 3 years ago. That is the new line with Cam Jurgens, not Jason Kelsey. That is Landon Dickerson, who's still a quality, really good guard, but has struggled as a pass blocker a little bit more this season. And now you put Fred Johnson out there too. Like, yeah, Lane Johnson's still kicking, but he's the only guy I would say is like a top guy at his position this season. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for guys not named Trey Hendrickson also to impact this game.
So I got something for y'all. And Jimmy, I want to make sure you put the camera on me real quick. Listen, I don't really give a lot of advice to coaching staffs because I don't believe that I'm equipped to do so. But I watch a lot of football and I know the game. I'll tell you right now, the Eagles have a sore spot on their defense that the Bengals could take advantage of. It's their linebacker spot. The best linebacker on the Eagles is Nakobe Dean. Outside of that, slim pickings. Don't rate a lot of the rest of these guys too highly, to be honest with you. The strength of their defense, I don't know, you can sort of make your pick. It could be their secondary, but I think it's their defensive line. I think it's the interior of their defensive line. I think that's fair to say. A couple of tight ends have had some success against the Eagles this season. And one of the games Evan mentioned was the Eagles taking on the Buccaneers. Cade Otton went for 6 catches for 52 yards, I believe it was. They were able to exploit that. And Njoku had 5 catches on them. Tucker Kraft had like 37 yards, something like that. And Kyle Pitts had like 3 catches, 20 yards, whatever. But I feel like the two teams that were able to really exploit that weakness of the Eagles defense were the Browns and were the Buccaneers that wind up winning like 33-15 or 16, whatever it was. So Joe Burrow, Bengals. You guys got some tight ends on your roster. We've seen them produce, and for some reason, you choose not to use them. Mike Gesicki, Eric All, Tanner Hudson. Utilize these guys. I think that this could be a strong game from the tight ends from the Bengals. Listen, the last time you went up against a team that struggled covering tight ends, the Kansas City Chiefs, well, you had a record-breaking setting day with Joe Burrow at quarterback throwing the tight ends in his professional career. He had a lot of success doing so. For whatever reason, you went away from it. Guess what? If you think that this is going to be the week where, your receivers are just going to go off, they could potentially, as Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they 100% can. Right? But what increases the likeliness of that happens? What increases the chances of that happening? Well, throw to your tight ends.
Mhm.
Get these guys involved early in the game. I'll keep saying over and over and over and over again. Get these guys involved. Guys, I'm so confident that this should be a tight end Bengals game. It's just a matter of if the Bengals are going to actually go through with it. This ain't a check it down to Zach Moss game. Maybe you could. You could check down to Chase Brown, sure. But why make the path harder for yourselves? You drafted Eric All for a reason. You brought Mike Gesicki in for a reason. It's no better time than the present. Utilize these guys this week. If Joe Burrow wants to exit Paycor Stadium in a whiteout game and keep that 4-0 record in the whiteout uniforms intact, attack your tight ends this week. Utilize them this week. Mike Gesicki, Eric All should combine for like 7, 8, 9 catches, whatever it looks like. But this should 100% be a game where your tight ends get involved. We should not exit a game this week where Eric All has 0 catches. Mike Gesicki has 1 catch. That's abysmal. And guess what? For an offensive staff, a guy that's been allotted as, a very good play caller, schematically, not play caller, I'm sorry, it's just a guy that's good at drawing up schemes. And Dan Pitcher, who's been a part of this team for a very long time. I'm expecting a lot from y'all this week. Zach Taylor, you brought in to be an offensive guy, to grow with your quarterback, to grow with this team. 100%. They should have walked in to that building on, for game planning for the Eagles. And it should say, hey, listen, tight ends, tight end university. Ain't a National Tight End Day coming up or something like that too? Listen, man, this should be the game where the tight ends get involved. Mike Gesicki, Eric All should not leave this game with a combined 2 catches. Get them involved early and often. I guarantee you this team will have a lot of success. I trust that this Bengals tight end group can have more success than that Eagles linebacker group. That's what I feel in my heart. This is the Eagles linebacker group that's struggling. They need good players. Didn't they just cut Devin White not too long ago?
Yeah.
Right? Like this is a team that needs guys to get involved. That's just my thought. So hear me out. Tight ends. I'm taking a lot of tight end props this week for the Bengals. I'm not sure if they've come out just yet, but I will be betting Mike Gesicki this week. I will be betting Eric All this week. I'm sure Vegas is going to put Eric All's catches at 1.5 again.
I was going to say they're going to drop it down again. Awesome. Let's go.
Please
Thank
do
you.
it.
Yeah.
Please do it.
Oh, no, it didn't work out 1 week.
1 week.
Oh, man.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
better
Damn,
drop that.
no. And then I'm being real with you. That third receiver too, whoever that slot receiver is, has been having a lot of success against the Eagles defense this year as well. Yoshi Voss, I'm looking at you, man.
This is it.
I'm looking at you,
This is
man.
your moment.
Man, I'm looking at you, Andre Yoshi Voss. This is your moment, man. This is your opportunity to finally show up, man, in a big way, because you obviously know this Eagles defense is going to be looking to take Jamar Chase away, right? They're going to be looking to take away T. Higgins. All right, who's next up? Yoshi Voss and the tight ends. I'm counting on y'all. This got to be a big game, big week for y'all. Let's talk about the teams in our division now. But before we do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Can the Bengals keep pace? This is the question. Can the Bengals keep pace? The AFC North is a tough division each and every single year, but I gotta give a tip of the hat. I'm not even wearing my hat right now, but I'll do it. I got to give a tip of the hat. The Ravens playing their asses off right now, playing like the best offense in football.
Yeah.
Right. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are just finding a way, man.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson corny as hell. I got to say that. But man, he got those
Yeah, he
boys
is,
playing.
but no,
man.
he did it. Yeah,
He's
yeah,
doing
he
his
did
thing.
Yeah.
Russ is playing danger. Russ. He's doing it. He's doing his
Mr. Limited.
Mr. Unlimited. He's doing his thing right now, man. Him and the boys are playing. So we got to talk about it, man. Can the Bengals keep pace in the AFC North? Listen, at some point, the Ravens got to start losing here, right? I mean, at some point, you got to hope that they do.
Good, man.
Right? I mean, at some point, you got to hope the Steelers start. But the Steelers offense looks a whole lot better under Russell Wilson than it did Justin Fields. And this is a guy that was sitting up here saying, I don't know, Mike Tomlin. I don't know if you're making the right decision. But man, it's coming together. So Danny, what are your thoughts, man?
I think that it's a tough and a tall order to say that, the Bengals, are in the driver's seat. I think that the Bengals potentially can, but I'm gonna be honest. I just look at, and I think the best case scenario is you look at a Steelers schedule that is a hell of a lot tougher on the second half of the stretch than it was in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very confident in those two teams, that both teams. I'm very confident at this point that the Steelers at least win 9 to 10 games. And I look at the Ravens, and I think the same thing. I mean, the Ravens are 5-2, and then you got the Browns without, with Jameis Winston. Then you got Denver at home. Then the Bengals prime time, but that's at your own place. And then you go to Pittsburgh. So they've got a tough, second half as well. But I think it really is up to the Bengals, and I think it comes down to the divisional games. Like, if we're talking, can they keep pace? You have to go 3-0 against the Steelers and the Ravens. That's what I believe. And I think if you do that, you give yourself a fighting chance. If you lose one of those 3 games against those 2 teams, I think that the division, it might be out of your reach. And quite frankly, in my opinion, I think you're fighting for the playoffs, not even for your division. So when I look at, the division as a whole, I just think that the Steelers and the Ravens are playing too damn good of football and have too much of a lead right now to say that the Bengals can easily win the division. I think that they can, but it starts out, I think if you go 3-0 against those 2 teams, you give yourself a chance. If you don't do that, I think it's going to be a very, very, very tall order to go out and win the division. But quite frankly, in my opinion, you're fighting for the playoffs right now. And you got to obviously take care of business in division. But for me, a wild card versus a win in the division, once you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoffs, man.
Mm-hmm.
And this Bengals team has shown time and time again, it doesn't matter, if you have to go to opposing territory. Both teams still line up and play 60 minutes of football. So my tall task would be you go 3-0, and that's a tall task. 2-0 against the Steelers and go into Baltimore and beat them on prime time. But if they do that, I mean, it's you're looking and sitting very pretty.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. The Ravens are what the Ravens are. I'm not saying we can't catch the Ravens by any means, but they're just a good football team, man. They're playing unbelievable on the offense side of the ball. The defense has not been what the Ravens are used to at all, but it's kind of, in a weird way, worked in their favor because their offense has found an amazing rhythm. And so it doesn't matter. Their defense doesn't need to be good anymore like it used to. Their offense is absolutely firing on all cylinders. But, I don't want to say the whole season, but like you got to go 2-0 against the Steelers at this point. Even I'm going to say 3-0 like Daniel's point, but not that I don't care if we beat the Ravens, but you got to beat the Browns again. And you got to beat the Steelers. Those 2 Steelers games are going to determine so much, not even just in the division, but that's going to be a team you're going head to head against in a playoff hunt. And having that tiebreaker, having these little advantages over them is going to mean so much. The Steelers are always going to sit 1 or maybe 2 games above 500, no matter who's on their roster, no matter who's playing on that football team. They're always going to be about a 500 team, a little bit above, no matter what. And they're going to do it this year too. I'm still not like overly scared of the Steelers. They still, George Pickens is solid. They got nobody else on that offense that can catch the football. Their offensive line's banged up. They're still the Steelers. They're still going to find ways to win no matter what.
Trade deadline, though, man.
Yeah, I know, but they're running out of people to trade for at this point.
Yeah.
I like the early movement. I really do.
Cooper Cup.
Man, don't say that, man. Don't wish that in the air.
I ain't putting that evil on you, Ricky Bobby. Relax.
Please go after Mike Williams like they've been talking about.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, go ahead. Go
You
ahead.
go get another jump ball receiver.
You know who's great? Darius Hayward Bay. Maybe they should call him back.
Man, I know that's
Dorial
great.
Green Beckham, my ears.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, the Steelers are what they are. Like, I'm not saying that they're not good. They're always going to have this good record, this good team, this good morale. You just got to find a way to beat them when you play them. You know, they're going to have their slip ups. They're going to finish, like I said, 9-10 wins every year, no matter
Mhm.
what. But the Bengals can also finish with 9-10 wins. And if you have the head-to-head advantage against them, that's going to matter the most. So just go 2-0 against the Steelers. I think the rest of itself will kind of play out.
Evan, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a pretty good summation of it, man, to where right now the Bengals have just now treaded into the territory of being favored to make the playoffs as opposed to miss it. I think you're going to have a hard time winning the division unless Baltimore decides to start taking a tumble and maybe Cleveland takes care of business now that they've got a competent starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Or at least one willing to throw passes, whether they
ball.
be to the other team or your team. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think you need to take care of business against the Steelers. You can't leave it up to chance because Tomlin with a great defense and a limping offense can still find their way to 8, 9, 10 wins, no problem. So I think you're looking squarely as the Bengals is, hey, we need to get 10 wins and we need to take care of, hey, second game with the Browns, knock it out of the park. When you play your games against Steelers, knock them out of the park. Like, yeah, the Ravens might have gained quite a bit of ground there. Maybe they have an injury. Maybe they have something go wrong. I mean, hell, we saw the Eagles. What was it? They were just even last year, 10-1 to start the season, and then went 1-6 down the stretch. So maybe some sort of collapse happens like that. We don't know. The NFL, it's a long season. So right now, all you can do is focus week to week, getting those wins. Like we said, it doesn't have to be pretty. You hope to be building good habits, and you hope to be trending in the right direction and kind of getting hot at the right time in the season. You definitely want to be on the right trajectory going into the bye when you can kind of self-scout, take a breath, and reset. And yeah, I think you definitely need to take care of at least, what do they have? 4 division games left. Really think you need to go at least 3-1 in there. Otherwise, 2-2, you're going to have to really take care of the rest of the AFC opponents that you're facing.
100%. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. We've been live for an hour and 12 minutes already. Woo! I want to get to our quick bets, and then we're going to answer like a few questions and head out of here. Daniel, this is where we thrive, man. That's where we start. Obviously NBA season is back in full fledged, and we'll be back tomorrow morning for the sit down with Malik Wright morning show with our guy Parker Blake. We talking all things through, getting you all caught up and getting you all ready for Bengals taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're going to be discussing if Joe Burrow should, if he should be the front runner for MVP right now, because he's certainly playing lights out right now this season. But Daniel, I was looking at some props, man. And Evan and Logan, feel free to chop in here at any points in time. But here's a couple props that I like so far for the game. Obviously, all of them stuff isn't up. This is what I saw early. I like Joe Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Again, he's playing standout, having a great season. And I'm really curious how many passing touchdowns he's going to wind up ending with for the remainder of the season. Remember, there's still some games on tap this year where I feel like Joe Burrow can have big days against some of these teams. But Saquon Barkley's reception prop, to Evan's point, they haven't utilized in this way.
What's it at?
2.5.
2.5.
And it's plus money.
2.5 at plus money. I'm probably taking that.
Yeah.
Because he has hit 3 a couple times. He's hit 4 before. It's more of those games where they haven't really utilized him, where they've just leaned on the run game and not had to do that. And I think you make a good point that this absolutely could end up being that game plan where, hey, if Trey's bearing down on you and if Lou really is bringing the heat, and bringing the blitzes and playing you similar to how they tried to do Lamar, like I
might even just see more
and Derrick Henry.
Too,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's totally worth looking at.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think he's potentially could have a big day. His rushing yards, it's sitting at 75.5. I don't know if I love that.
Tough.
That's tough because
tough.
I think he has a bigger day in the receiving game than he does running.
I think the Bengals are going to dedicate a lot of resources to making sure that he does not reach that number. The same way they did Derrick Henry.
Yes.
I think they see the way that the Eagles have transitioned to lean a lot heavier into the run like they did when they first had Jalen Hurts there, as opposed to the last year or two with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, where I think that they are going to say, hey, we're going to load the box. And if you want to run with Jalen, if you want to run with Saquon, then you're not going to beat us that way.
Yeah.
Beat us somewhere else.
Right. I agree. And my fear is, right, and whenever I'm giving out betting advice, not even a fear, it's just those garbage time runs, man. Like with
Mhm.
Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was getting bottled up all game,
Mhm.
and he finished with 92 yards rushing against the Bengals. And
Yeah, that
that's on
40
50.
yarder at the end.
That-
Yeah,
it's like, could that be one of those plays where it's like, all right, it happens because you kind of just feel that you got the game wrapped in bags. And looking back on it, even a lot of the games the Bengals lost this season, we should have won. I know we're talking about bets right now, but Evan just brought up a good point. Just remind they were up 10 points
Mhm.
with under 4 minutes to go against the Baltimore Ravens
Twice, I think.
twice in the fourth quarter.
Lost.
They almost beat the Chiefs.
Oh,
A BS
man.
Like
God,
really should have 2 extra wins right now.
Oh
It's
man,
crazy
the wounds,
when you
they
think
still
about
hurt.
it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just
They're,
thinking about
they
that.
have, I think they're up to like a plus 12 point differential, which just shows more like that they have been ultimately winning. They
Mhm.
just the games they've lost have been such close games. It's
Mhm.
tough, man. It's always coming down to like 1 or 2 plays.
Man, I don't know.
I know.
Man.
I know.
But you know, I guess the fan base is gonna be out in full droves for that game, man. They're gonna be out in full droves for that Philadelphia Eagles game. Man, I haven't seen Paycor that packed in terms of like tickets in quite some time. You know, we obviously had the ticket giveaway. Whenever we give away tickets to Bengals games, to every single Bengals home game this season, we do that. But Danny, what are some plays that you like?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple, and I'd be looking at the total. I think there is going to be a lot of points, and 47.5 I think is a beautiful number. 47 is always kind of where it is. I definitely lean the over, but if there's 2 plays I like Jalen Hurts to throw a pick. It's not on FanDuel right now, but it's on DraftKings. It's minus
Yeah.
115. He's thrown a pick in his first 3 games of the season, but not in each of his past 3. So I think that the books are kind of saying, hey, they're going to trend to what's been recent. He hasn't thrown a pick, but I also challenge people to go look at, especially the last game, what was the game script? They didn't have to throw the ball. So I think that Lou Anarumo is going to cook up some stuff. And once again, at least I can look at myself in the mirror after the game, and if he doesn't throw a pick, he is going to give us chances. He is going to give you chances. There's going to be at least 3, 4, 5 jump balls. There's going to be you're going to have your chance. For me, at even money, I think that should be actually priced the opposite. I think that should be minus 145. That should be minus 150. So Jalen Hurts to throw a pick, I think is something that I absolutely love. I also like Jamar to just score a touchdown. He scored a touchdown in 4 of his past 5. And it's plus 100. And I look at it, yes, T. Higgins has out-targeted him, but I think that this could be a game to where he's still getting 7, 8 targets in. I'm sorry, I'm not confident in the Bengals rushing attack on the goal line. I'm still confident in Jamar Chase. So at plus 100, those are definitely 2 of my favorite bets, and those that I can at least look at and say, hey, I'm confident I'm going to get my money's worth. Like, I'm going to have my chances. Jamar Chase is going to have his chances. And same thing, Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry, he's going to throw a pick. So those are definitely 2 of my favorites.
Absolutely. I think that this is going to be some good football being played on Sunday inside Paycor Stadium. I'm excited because it's one of those. If the Bengals win this will be the one game that people give them respect for, I would say. National media wise speaking. Obviously, I give them a lot of respect for the AFC North victory of the Browns, but this will be one of those wins that's like, all right, the Bengals are ready to rock. The Bengals are ready to go. And they have everything in front of them. They have an opportunity to go get to 4-4 this week. Then you got the Raiders coming in to town. Then you got to go to Baltimore. Then you got to go to LA, which I'm going to try to get me and the boys to go out to a game together. We have not done a game yet this season together. We've just been so busy grinding. But there's a lot of stuff on the plate. Before we get to answering a couple of questions here, I want to just shout out, not even a sponsor, just a friend of the show. Today's show is brought to you by what I believe is truly the best chicken spot in all of Cincinnati. I really believe that, or the greater Cincinnati area. You can catch them at Eastgate. They're over by Jungle Gyms. They're called Noble Chicken. Noble Chicken. So if you guys are looking to get some good chicken, some great people, head on over to Noble Chicken. Got to head into Jungle Gyms to find them. But they do some great stuff. They're a friend of the shows. They tune in each and every single week, and we wanted to make sure we do something awesome for them. The QR code is right up there, right below me, right, Jimmy? Right below me. So make sure you guys scan that code if you want to order. They're on DoorDash too. So if you're in the Eastgate area, make sure you guys check out Noble Chicken. Dang, let's get to some questions.
For sure. And once I'll just shout it out too. I mean, very good chicken. I'm not a huge chicken guy, to be honest with you guys. I don't know if you guys have even tried
That's
it.
wild.
I'm not like
I'm not a huge
I
chicken
can't
guy, it's
imagine.
nutty.
Can't imagine.
no, I'm not like.
Could
I
not
think
believe
I
What
would
do you eat then, Daniel?
cheeseburgers, Wendy's,
He did.
McDonald's.
I walked in and Daniel's got a
Sour
Wendy's
gummy
bag. It's
worms,
still right
sour
next to it.
Skittles. Yeah, you know, the usual.
But
All the main food groups. Yeah.
But I will say, if it is chicken, I'm definitely doing Noble Chicken for sure. Travis Schwaller, our guy, he said, do we get active in the trade market? Hypothetically, what's one option and one defense option that's feasible? I guess more so, do you guys foresee the Bengals getting active in the trade market at the trade deadline?
It's not been something they historically do, and if they do, they're selling somebody off that they don't feel like they need, or that's done pissed them off, and that's just doesn't seem like it's gonna be the case this year as much as we might like to. Maybe maybe if we get another injury or something, and
I think you need
With a couple games,
more
but-
cluster injuries, like
Yeah.
more injuries to one individual position.
Yeah.
Like if D tackle was maybe still an issue, but I think that was probably
or
the
if this
most
Orlando Brown injury was more serious, then you could be like, maybe we need to.
right. Maybe another corner goes
Something.
down, and then you go, okay, yeah, we might want somebody as just a veteran, but yeah, I don't see him making a move.
So we got a question. It was from earlier on in the show, but what concerns you guys more? Is it the Eagles' defensive line or the Eagles' weapons on offense?
Defensive line, but
Defensive line for sure.
just because the Bengals' offense is so important, anything that disrupts that is always going to be terrible for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when their offense is clicking, I see it more as you narrowed it to passing weapons instead of Saquon in the running game, which has been their strength. They've been a lot closer to a top 5 rushing offense over the last couple weeks, and not even anywhere near the top 15 or so in passing. And a lot of that, Bengals fans talk about their frustrations with, hey, there's not enough like great scheme or something going on that gets Jamar and T open. It's like they just constantly are having to win just by being good players, and that's a lot of what AJ Brown has been doing, to his credit. So yeah, I would definitely take the defensive line in terms of consistency over their passing weapons.
So we had another question from early on in the show, and this was from Gary Jellison. He said, how do you guys think the Bengals can spring the rushing game better? Is it scheme? Is it talent? What do you guys think it is with the Bengals rushing offense?
I'm just at this point, I believe that the Bengals are just not going to be in a team that's going to commit to the run the way we want them to. Obviously they'll have their games where if it's working, they'll continue to go to it. It's just how they operate. I just don't ever, I think expecting this team to have like a rusher that's going to be up in the upper echelon of the league rushing. I just think that's wishful thinking at this point. I don't think it's just a part of their MO. This team is predicated and built on the past, and they're going to live and die by that.
Yeah, I think for me, if this is, I guess, being a little picky and maybe even just a little bit of preference thing too. I know people, haven't been the highest on Zach Moss these last few weeks, but I still think you need to, use both your backs. I think Chase Brown's better when he's, more fresher and getting these bigger runs. Zach Moss is in there kind of changing the pace, and they're both kind of getting their feet wet a little bit. Obviously, Chase Brown has been better so far this year, but I still think they work together. They work off of each other pretty well. And when you continuously feed one, I think both of them get a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And I also think, when the Bengals line up in their heavier run packages, their more obvious running formations, they don't run the ball very well out of it. And if anything, they throw the ball better out of it, which I think they need to find that rushing identity. I still think, I think they should play into you obviously can't go empty and run the ball as much, but 2x2, spread out the defense, then find the lanes. I don't think the Bengals are let's get as many people into the box as we can. Our blockers are going to be better than yours. You got to commit to the spread it out offense. Let the running backs kind of find their lanes there.
And I would even add to that, I think that when they do go in that, bunch set, or they do have those 2 tight ends, and if it's not working, the play action game, I feel like is something that the Bengals have been, whether it's lethargic or just not, like, it doesn't seem very complex. And that's obviously play action. You want to make it simple. But I think there's so many times, whether it's in the formation where they do the toss to Chase Brown and it just absolutely does nothing, or you get your Eric all in motion as a blocker and you run a play action off of that. I feel like that's the part of the game where I feel like they could be doing a lot more. But we can get to one more question here. Akila the Great had a good question. What is the root cause of the front office's inactivity? Do you guys think it's just overconfidence in the team? Do you think it's, the overall market? What's your guys' thoughts on?
When you say inactivity, are we referring to like not trading players?
Yeah.
Overvaluing the players. thinking that the rest of the league is dumb or not as intelligent as they are at pointing, because I think it's a family-owned operation. Sometimes it's hard to get out of their own way. It's like with any family-owned business or anything like that. You know, somebody tries to come in and brings new ideas to the table. You're probably less reluctant to take them. You know, you've been doing something the same way this entire time. It's kind of hard to kind of just change over time. It would have to be something where they would probably need to see it to believe that it could change. Like I think that seeing the success that they had with Joe Burrow made them say, hey, we need to go out and do some things to try to fix the offensive lineup to help our quarterback to open our window for as long as possible. Because they saw Joe Burrow take this team with a beat up offensive line to the Super Bowl. I think it was like, okay, we realize that how good our quarterback is. Let's do some things to help him. Well, the same could be said about a bunch of stuff. It's like they've probably been burnt before in the past with trading players they have traded with, and they're probably just not as keen on the idea of trading away players, because there's always that one caveat. And I feel like I'm almost like thinking how the Bengals think. Hear me out. I can almost give you an exact response you probably get from the front office or whoever from the family. Well, if we go out and we trade for a player, there are a couple of contributing factors. How will said player fit into our culture? How will said player fit into our locker room? Why was said player available for trade? And what would said player want from us from a financial standpoint that would make that player happy to play in Cincinnati? Does that sound about right to what the organization would say?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's probably spot on to what they, instead of just saying, we don't give a shit about none of that. Let's trade for a guy who has a year left on his contract. Let's worry about the crap and the offseason. Maybe it's a 1 year, or at this point, a half-year rental, see what he is, produces, and then go from there. When you think about some of the teams that have gone out and made trades for players that have helped them on playoff runs, right? And it could be a situation in which they traded a player for a third-round pick, right? Will the Bengals ever do that? No, because you're not even willing to take the phone call. You're not even willing to answer the phone. You're not even willing to have the conversation. I'm sorry. I'm giving up a third-round pick if it means that said player could take us to a championship. Problem is, this is twofold, actually. The players that the Bengals would even be interested in, right? Are they game changers, or are they just stopgap players? Is it going to be a difference maker? I'm sorry. The trade deadline, I'm trading for players that I believe is going to be a difference maker. And then the fear becomes, if we trade for a difference maker, what will we have to give up? Bro, that third-round pick ain't breaking you.
Mm-hmm.
That third-round pick is not breaking you. If you're hoisting a Lombardi trophy or even making it to the Super Bowl in February, you're not thinking about that third-round pick. You're thinking about, holy shit, we got a player in here that really helped change the face of our team.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, before we head out of here, the Bengals, Cincinnati, you're going to need to have a conversation soon. I understand about the whole playing players and 30 years old and all that stuff like that. Trey Hendrickson's playing his ass off right now, and a conversation needs to be had. Me and Evan and Logan and Daniel, we'll go down there. We'll have the conversation with you.
Yep.
A conversation needs to be had about keeping that guy long term, because that dude is playing lights out. He's having his best season that he's had as a Bengal.
He just keeps getting better,
even in the run game.
It just keeps getting better.
So yeah, conversation needs to be had. You need to talk about keeping that guy long term and doing something about it. While we're on the topic of keeping our own, while we're on the topic of taking care of people that are in house. Right? Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, players you need to 100% keep, because here's the way I look at it. I don't know if you guys look at it this way, because obviously you guys have been doing this a lot longer than me, been in Cincinnati a lot longer than me. I don't know too shit about the team, but here, listen. When I look at it, who is going to be the guy to offer sufficient pass rush after Trey Hendrickson? I'll wait. Everybody else, you're hoping for. Also want to shout out Joseph Osai for a second, too. Forgot about that.
Yes, I know.
I've been shitting on that guy.
Shame on us for not bringing this up earlier.
Shame on
us.
Joseph Osai, man.
Played awesome.
All right, he's playing. He put together 2 good games. Are my eyes deceiving me, guys? Or
no? This is
I saw against Jedrick Wills.
He played awesome this weekend. By far the best game he's ever played for us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see the vision a little bit with him. I don't know, but I just want to make sure I reiterate that Trey Hendrickson needs to be a Bengal long term. They need to make sure make sure he has another year left on his contract after this year. But back up the Brinks truck, keep that guy in Cincinnati. But that's why I think the Bengals haven't made any wholesale changes from an organizational standpoint, like in terms of being more active at the deadline. I hope that Joe Burrow or somebody else gets a hold of this to help go to them and say, hey guys, let's go out there and get somebody that could potentially help this team. But I think that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You got to hope that your quarterback is going to be a leader and really like, ask for these things, or not demand, but ask for these things to try to help put together a championship-esque roster. But my question is, what do you want the Bengals to also go out there and trade for? Because the answer that I got when it came to defensive end was, well, there's an overabundance at the defensive end position. And,
Max Crosby.
Right.
Yeah, guys, that's not happening.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Who do you want the Bengals to go out and trade for? Don't just say you want the Bengals to trade because you just want them to trade. Who ideally, and this is a good conversation to have. Maybe we should have this conversation. Who do you want the Bengals to go out there and realistically trade for? And what does that look like? And what I mean, what does that look like? What does that player want? Because typically, if you're trading for a star, they're going to want a new contract. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? The player that you're asking the Bengals to go out there and trade for, the player that you're saying, hey, we want the Bengals to be active, do something. What does do something look like? I see people talking about Khalil Herbert. Okay.
Ooh.
What is Khalil Herbert? Right.
The guy who is third on the depth chart behind Roshan Johnson and DeAndre Swift.
Right.
That Khalil Herbert.
First of all, I have conversations if you're behind Roshan Johnson because I don't rate him too highly. That's just my opinion. But real talk. Like, who do you want the Bengals to trade for? And realistically, what does that look like? Somebody said sexy Dexy, not realistic. No.
You're talking about edge players, like not an interior player. You're talking about an edge player. Again, like you said, that edge is only available because either if they're good, the team that has them right now has to pay them a contract and doesn't want to, or they don't want that guy for some reason that's off field, anything else, because like there is not an overabundance of talented edge rushers. There's not.
The only edge player that comes to mind that, like, he's not really, there's nothing like wrong with him. He's not bad. His team just kind of sucks. He's on a 1-year deal. With Saints, Chase Young. He's about the only one that's like there's no real like glaring issue. You're gonna have to pay him still. He's not great still, but like
in the injury history,
yeah. So, that's why he signed the 1-year deal. Saints might be looking to cash in, but that's still being
might as well just wait until free agency.
I agree.
And that's the other part, right? Is
I agree
because
completely.
when you're talking about this in the macro, I will almost, unless it's a quarterback, I will always be of the opinion that you should not trade multiple high value assets of first round, second round picks, whatever have you, for the right to pay someone a contract.
Yes.
Because we have seen this work out so poorly for so many teams. First comes to mind, Jamal Adams, trade for 2 first-round picks for safety, then give him the world's biggest contract by a couple million. It wasn't close.
No,
it wasn't like the $1 you get the number, the highest spot, right? Another defensive end who got traded for multiple first-round picks, I think it was like 3 or 4, was Khalil Mack. And Khalil Mack absolutely has regained his form. But those first 3 years, right, you dealt with injuries, you dealt with a whole bunch of rough issues like that. Like
Von Miller, right? Didn't Von Miller get traded too to the Rams?
And that's the thing, is like Khalil Mack ain't even where he was originally, right? Like he's moved all around now multiple times. And and Von Miller. Okay, you got Von Miller. You give this guy a giant contract, and then you want to kick. Why don't we do the stuff the Eagles do? Because Von Miller happens, and now the Bills had to strip their whole fucking roster to pay for that mistake, right? The Saints have had to look at their decimated right now with negative cap space
still keep signing
and a
people.
26 million. Yeah,
tomorrow.
well, they did that because they have to move the money around because they have to convert it to signing bonuses because they have a $26 million cap hit for their 28-year-old running back. So like, when people say the cap is fake, it's not real. Why don't the Bengals do the Eagles stuff? Because this is where you end up when the Eagles stuff doesn't work.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Rams defense, where you didn't know a single name on it last year. That's what happens when you sign the Jalen Ramsey, the Aaron. There are consequences of this, guys, and we just block this out of our memories when it doesn't work out. And then when it does, we go, oh, look at that. Look at that. We should do that. And it's like, there are very real consequences prolonged. So again, like just going back to the original question, like, I love Max Crosby. I think Max Crosby's fucking legit. I would still feel a little uncomfortable with giving up the 3 first-round picks it would probably take.
No shot.
Plus, you have to give him $35 million a year.
Yep.
Good.
Like, that's the other part of it.
And
I'd rather just wait for free agency and then pay him 35.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at the situation the Bengals are in, and it's also a good spot because they don't mismanage the cap space. And you got to realize that, there's building a team and then there's keeping a team together. right? There are crucial decisions that need to be made in terms of keeping together a championship level roster. And what does that look like? And how do you keep it going? Someone asked Akila the Great, not Akila Grace, Jacqueline Hyde asked, can anyone explain the point of rolling over cap money when the Bengals have the potential to go all the way like they do now? In the words of from the Kanye West Jay-Z song In Paris, no one knows what it means, but it's provocative or whatever he says. At the end of the day, I understand why they do it, but at the end of the day, I think it's a spot where I think the Bengals, they try to keep, I don't know. I guess they like to keep that in the back pocket for the players that they have in the future, but it doesn't always pan out that way. It kind of it hurts it a little bit because like you get into this haggle situation with these players when it comes time to pay them. So that money that you're utilizing to say, hey, that money is dedicated to our players and what we plan to do. Okay, well, if they're allocated to those players you plan to keep, what does it look like? All the fan base sees is you're not signing those guys. They're not looking at it from the
That's the aspect of that, right? Is because
right.
in theory, yes, it is for you to have
Yeah.
those, right? Where
Yeah.
right now you have Joe Burrow on the max contract, right? And you don't have necessarily the giant contracts you expect to have in a year or two, right? You
Mhm.
expect to have maybe T. Higgins on a second franchise tag. You have Jamar Chase on his extension in his
Mhm.
contract. And then you have Orlando Brown making the money that he is. And then you've got to worry about what's going on with your interior line. So you're going to be spending a lot of money trying to maintain your offense here. So by saving this money now, you either A, have the money this year if you end up for some reason, you know, God forbid something,
Mhm.
not God forbid, if by random chance T. Higgins was to end up signing a contract, then you have the room now to put some money this year.
Mhm.
So that in the coming years, when you have Jamar Chase's contract hitting, you have Joe Burrow's contract hitting, that T. Higgins, the bulk of his money was already paid, you know, year one, because you had 25 million sitting around. The other aspect is, again, like if you say, hey, we're going to have a big inflated cap hit for Jamar Chase next year, it's the last year of his rookie deal. We want to take the signing bonus money and scoot as much as we can in the next year. There is an advantage of that, of saying, hey, that would be our big free agent move that we would have available to us. We couldn't sign a 12 or $15 million free agent, you know, if we take care of our guys and then just give Jamar's extension. Whereas if you roll the 15, 20 million, 10 million that you have left over, that gives you that middle tier free agent, that BJ Hill level, Sheldon Rankins level looking guy to where, hey, maybe you can't get, if Miles Murphy doesn't work out, maybe, you know, you bring back Trey at some sort of deal that works out for him. And maybe you can't get Max Crosby, but you can get, you know, one of those middle tier pass rushers that at least, you know, can consistently do that one thing well.
Right.
Or you can get that one corner that you need, whatever that position is that's hurting. Maybe they say, hey, we're tired of having Yoshi Voss and Jermaine Burton and Charlie Jones, and they're all young. And, you know, we want someone that Joe Burrow feels comfortable with, a veteran in that third spot, and they get a slot receiver this year in free agency. Like maybe that's the case. I don't know, but it does. There is a reason, and it does make sense from a team building standpoint. But I also do understand the frustration of, we have the money, why didn't we just spend it? But again, it goes back to you, where you say, to what end, on whom, right? Who is available? Who wanted to sign with the Bengals? Who was going to be available for that cap space that is going to make the difference this year and beyond? And as much as we'd like them to say, hey, go all in, push all the chips to the table, again, I've said I just named multiple teams where that didn't work out, and they are still paying for it. So yeah, that's why not all in, because all in doesn't always work out, and then you pay for it for 3 to 5 years.
Quick little shout out. I just want to, non-Bengals related, but NFL related, because we all love football here. The Giants came out and they just made a statement regarding Brian Dable and Joe Schoen that I thought was very interesting. They said that they're committed to them through 2025. The reason why I think that that's important is because I've talked about it several times on my morning show, and I said if they let go of Brian Dable, I think that'd be a mistake. I believe that guy's a good football coach, and I think he needs a chance. So that means if Brian Dable is still in the house, even with benching Daniel Jones, even if they gave Daniel Jones a contract, you got to wonder, is Daniel Jones' days numbered in New York? Because I think that for it to be week 8 coming up here, and for the owner to come out when all things are going bad and say, we're committed to our general manager and our head coach, we believe in the direction of this team. I don't know, man. I think that's pretty cool of them. I just wanted to kind of bring that up because we are a football family show here, and I think that's pretty damn cool that they're giving them a chance and an opportunity. But I think that's all the time that we got here. We've been live for an hour, 40 minutes. We appreciate y'all for tuning into another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright and the boys, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. Make sure you guys do us a favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content. Remember, we'll be back live tomorrow morning for the Sit Down with Malik Wright morning show as we break all things through, getting you all set up for week 8. And remember, Evan's video, Know Thy Enemy, getting you all caught up for Bengals taking on the Eagles this week. Will be up this Friday at 7 p.m. as always. So make sure you guys tune into that. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you guys for making us a part of your Wednesday schedule. And as always, until next time.